Hello 3D lovers and welcome back. Before we can jump into Substance Painter to knock out those maps, we need to do some final preparation, and we need to talk about naming conventions, because that is very important. What are naming conventions, how we can use them, and why do we need them? Well, it's pretty straightforward. For a complicated character like this, what we want to do is we want to bake each element separately from all the other elements. And I'm not talking just about the propeller, which is right now a physically separate element, and the rest of the character. What we will do right now is we will, previously we collapsed all the geometry into a single mesh, and right now we will separate the elements back into separate elements. Why? Why did we go through all this? Well, it's pretty simple, and you might have guessed it by now. We did that to so that we can pack all the maps on this UV surface together, relative to one another. And now, when they are packed, so we can use use a single set of maps for the entire character: the color map, the normal map, the metallic map, etc., etc. But now we need to split the character apart so that we can, for instance, bake the maps for the claw separately from the maps for the body. And that is needed so that these elements, which are very close together, one is practically penetrating the other. We need to make sure that these elements don't mess up the maps for one another. And to do that, we need to split the character, and we need to use the correct naming conventions. So let's split the character first. I will save the project first, maybe even as a new version. It's a good practice to create many versions in case you need to go back and fix something. So I use edit poly element, like this claw, and I will now detach it. Now this rim, I will detach it as well. The inner rim, same thing. And I think that's it. Well, there are also these handles, but these handles are meant to be part of the body. We only separated them into their own elements, into separate elements, because it was easier for us at that point to do the retopology. But the handles and the body are meant to be a single element, therefore we are not going to split them. Splitted objects, they have absolutely no influence upon one another. And here I would like to have some ambient occlusion affecting the handles and the body. Some additional, if you don't know what ambient occlusion is, don't worry, I'll explain it during the map baking process. So the character is split into the claw, the body, and the rims, turbine rims. And now it is time to name the elements correctly. It is very important, otherwise we won't be able to bake the maps. So the body will be called uppercase body underscore low. And this naming convention is very important. Low will tell the program that this is low poly. And the uppercase for the first letter, that has to do with how Zbrush works, because this naming convention will be reflected in Zbrush, only we will replace low with high for the high-res geometry. And when we are naming subtools in Zbrush, it by default, even if I try to rename this subtool using all the lowercase letters like propeller, it will replace the lowercase with uppercase for the first letter. And Substance Painter is case sensitive when it comes to naming objects. Therefore, body low. This will be called, let's say, outer rim low, and this will be called inner rim. Yes. The propeller will be propeller low, the claw low. So we have named all the elements of the drawn character, but that is not all, because we will also need to create texture sets. Texture sets are different from everything else because naming is just for baking of elements. We need to pair low poly geometry with an equivalent high res mesh so that the maps can bake correctly and we can control the influences of individual elements. But the texture sets is a special entity inside Substance Painter. And we need to create texture sets in such a way that it's easier for us to work. It will be easier for me to illustrate the purpose of texture sets once we are inside Substance Painter. For now, just let me just tell you how these texture sets are created. They are created through materials. Here, this material editor, this is the material editor inside 3ds Max, and I will, for instance, I need a separate texture set for the body, and I will just call it body, nothing else. And I will apply this material to the body of the drawn character. Then I will have a separate texture set for the claw. Again, apply the material. I think I can have the same texture set for both rims. I'll call it just rims, something like that. Or, you know, maybe not, because I will need to look inside. I need to have a full view of the inner ring, and right now it is hidden inside other objects. Basically, when you are having texture sets in Substance Painter, you can turn off and on individual texture sets so that you can work, for instance, with the inner ring separately. Without texture sets, you cannot just turn individual elements off or on. So I will create a separate texture set for the inner ring, and I will apply it, and the same for the outer rim. And for some reason, I keep writing outer with double T. It's written with a single one. Let me, by the way, also correct the spelling here. Outer is spelled with a single T. Yeah, and I need to apply the material. Don't forget to apply the material. Now the texture set for the propeller. There we go. And that's it, I think. Now that I have everything prepared for the low poly, I select all the elements and I go File, Export Selected. I will create a separate folder. It's just my way of organizing things, which I will call for baking. And I will be exporting it as an FBX. OBJ will not cut it. FBX, I will call it Drawn Low Poly, or just low, and the version. And that is it. Now I need to go inside ZBrush, and it is pretty messy here because I was when I was preparing high-res geometry for a topology, I went and created a bunch of duplicates. And yeah, I've managed to find the correct model. And I will now rename all the high-res elements in accordance with their low poly counterparts. For instance, the body. The low poly version of the body is called body low, and this version will be called body high. The claw will be claw high. Again, note the first uppercase letter is important because Substance Painter is case sensitive. Propeller high, right? Outer rim high, and finally inner rim high. That's it. There is also this element, this glass protection screen, but I'm not sure that we will be using it. And if we will, it will not probably require a separate map or a set of maps. It will require a special shader, so we can add it later. So right now, I'm saving it again as a new version, and I will export using the FBX export-import plugin, export all the visible elements. I already have drawn low, it will be drawn high, and a version. We'll need to give it a little time to export the high res. It takes a while. We will be, once it is done, we will be all set to start experimenting with baking maps. And I'm saying experimenting because something might not work with our retopologized version, in which case we will have to go back and fix it. And we will be doing it in the next lesson.